Oh, good morning, y'all. How we doing?
Good.
Hey. So my name's John. I am one of the PrepperNet people.
Hi, John.
It's turned into a not that kind of meeting, exactly.
You're in the wrong
Yeah. Next one over, I think. Well, so thank y'all for coming out. I know this is kind of a different location. We've been here, I think, one time before. It's the backup, so definitely appreciate it. We were thinking the Comanche Lookout, but it's June.
Yeah.
And it's probably 85 degrees outside already, so we didn't want to do that. So thank y'all for making the drive. I know it's kind of might be a little bit more of a hike for some people, especially if they're out way out of 1604. So anyway, we're talking about natural disaster weather preparedness today. If everyone's here for PrepperNet. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, so we're making a really short presentation today. That's why we're starting a little late anyway, because it's probably going to be tops 20 minutes. We're trying to transition at least a little bit into the net part of PrepperNet, which is networking with people. Sure, most of y'all have kind of an idea how to survive weather events because you're still alive. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, PrepperNet is a nationwide organization where we try to network like-minded people. You might find out that, hey, your neighbor comes to one of these meetings and you'll be like, oh, hey, didn't know you were into this. Maybe we should, build a group together or something. So just some thoughts. We want to make sure that everyone has ample time to talk to your neighbors. So that's the biggest goal. We have a couple things for show and tell. And protein shake, I don't know why that's there. So we'll give out some goodies and stuff. So anyway, yeah. So we are talking about, and I apologize, this room does not have a TV, so we're having to laptop it. Obviously, you can see the goals that we're doing. Just learn more about weather events and how to deal with them. We'll talk a little bit about first order, second order effects, things along those lines that you might have not really thought of. And take any questions. Like I said, we're trying to keep this under 20 minutes, so we'll probably be done by 11. So y'all can do whatever you want. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Might be able to see better with some glass.
I'm prepared.
There you go. All right, so types of natural disasters. We'll talk about hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes, heat waves, earthquakes, snowstorms, and I think that's it. Which is kind of interesting, as I thought San Antonio, there's not much going on around here like hurricanes. That won't be a big deal. But what hurricane was it? There was one in 2017, and I'm not local. I came from South Carolina a couple years ago. Harvey, I think, where you looked at the radar and it was just about to hit Bexar County, and then it kind of dissipated.
Yep.
It turned.
Yep.
Which shows the unpredictable nature of hurricanes.
It's just that close. It was dropping out there pretty good. I was blown. It's hard to blow.
Yeah.
Whoa, you're out in the wrong meeting.
Also, yeah, we do record these for the record. I do a little bit of editing, but we have a YouTube channel. It's called STX Preparedness, where we put these meetings up. So if you want to show a friend, do what?
I said beep.
Yeah. We'll bleep it out. We'll edit it out. Or if you miss a meeting, I try to record all of them that I'm here at and post them up there. So.
Where they posted it?
STX Preparedness on YouTube. Thanks for the plug. I appreciate it. But yeah, it really shows you that we could really deal with a pretty major hurricane if it came up through Houston and kept going west, depending on jet streams and all that stuff. So, well, that's something that I started looking at. That we did some cloud seeding out in north central Texas, and then all of a sudden these crazy storms showed up and made a bunch of tornadoes.
Well, that's what happened to what is it that up in Saudi Arabia now?
Dubai. Yeah, they got a year's worth of rain in like a weekend, so that's not ideal. So anyway, hurricanes is kind of my biggest thing. I spent most of my life in South Carolina. I don't know if you guys know, East Coast hurricanes like to just land there.
Yep.
So I dealt with some of those in my life. So mass destruction, obviously that's probably the worst. Infrastructure collapse, tornadoes, coastal flooding, and flash flooding. Flash flooding, until you've seen one or watched one, you don't realize how quick they really do show up. So that was probably one of the scariest things. Obviously, infrastructure collapse is huge. So in Florida's really bad, but they have developed a system, mostly because they are from Florida. They do the Waffle House system. If the Waffle House is still open, then they're okay. Legitimately, that's how a lot of Floridians figure it out. But it's also because they're used to it. They can deal with it. Their infrastructure is kind of hardened in a way, so that they'll have hurricane parties, and it's category 1. They kind of laugh at it. Here, though, flash flooding. So San Antonio, if it kind of rains for more than an hour, I don't know if y'all have been on 410, but it becomes a river. Especially near the airport. I've had to.
Yeah, in this area, actually.
I've had. It was flooded, I think, in 2002.
Something.
Yeah,
close to it, right? Yeah, so you're almost facing all the way up to the top.
In 90s too, right?
And then, if you know any Broncos, where the interstate crosses over the river, that the water got all the way up to the interstate and over the interstate.
Yeah. And it's something you think, oh yeah, I can drive through that, and then you hit 2 foot of water, your motor locks up unless you have a snorkel. That's just not fun when you have to swim out of your car. So.
Well, and then it's not safe if it's flash flooding because
yeah,
the waves can easily carry you, debris can impact you.
Yes.
Actually, it's seen flash flood on our honeymoon in Vegas.
Oh, Vegas is bad about it.
I've never seen that light.
I wouldn't even think Vegas was that.
It was up to here. We was in a bus, and it was all falling into the top step of the bus.
All it takes is some bad engineering companies to
Well, they're just not
set up concrete all over the
like San
place.
Antonio's not.
Take out drainage.
Yeah.
When you get into those semi-desert, arid situations, sometimes it just takes a bad storm, and the environment's not used to it. It can't handle it. So, infrastructure falls apart, but maybe the environment can deal with it. So if you look at like the Midwest and the Plain States, you'll see that a lot more, that they can deal with those bad storms.
Like the 2002 flood here, that was 32 inches in a 24-hour period.
Wow.
Yep.
You can't plan for that.
No.
That's over almost 1,000-year flood. I was a civil engineer at the time, so.
Yeah, we had a 1,000-year flood in South Carolina. Well, I'll talk about that later. So hurricanes, they're kind of the granddaddy of these, as far as what I'm concerned with, in San Antonio. Okay, so now we're mentioning flooding. Oh, and I skipped. There we go. So with flooding, obviously transportation's hampered. Typically, a lot of electronics will be disabled. Communications might be down depending on what the infrastructure is doing. Flash floods, sewage, and hazardous things. So this is kind of a second order effect that a lot of people don't consider for hurricanes, is when the floodwaters come in, your water is completely contaminated.
Yep.
You can't tell me that, well, you look at all of the sewer systems that suddenly bring all of that filth up to the top and mix in with the municipal water supply. So it's just not drinkable. So yeah, and sharknadoes, those are scary. So tornadoes. So San Antonio, we are lucky that we don't really get tornadoes. That's mostly North Texas, but used to be.
There was one in the east side.
Yeah.
Used to be.
I remember when I was younger, we had like small little tornado warnings here and there every other year, and I can't remember the last time
It really has to be the perfect situation here in San Antonio to get even the
It does.
high winds, 'cause we
And
got
it was a
the
tornado
thermal of
warning.
the
It
whole
wasn't
city.
necessarily
that
like
just knocks
tornadoes were
tornadoes out.
actually active and destroying things. It was more
Absolutely.
like, this is probably going to happen, so watch out.
Right. Now, this second photo down here, this is the track of an EF2 that went through the city in San Antonio. So EF2, yep.
What's that?
I don't know. I pulled this off a case
A few
ad.
years ago, we had a tornado in San Antonio. Yeah.
2017.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Again, think
7
about
years
that.
ago. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did that happen?
It's a fairly rare situation. So there's a gentleman that I do some firearms training with out on his property, and he had this shed, more like a cabin shed. It's probably a 20 by 20. It was on its side. I said, "What happened?" He was like, "Oh, tornado." Now, granted, this is outside city limits, but still,
It
he had a
happens.
tornado hit, and
Yeah.
so it does happen here. Not very often, thankfully.
Well, I know what ripped through Forestville a couple of years ago, but Forestville was tore up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a tornado or just a bad storm, but either way, it was, I mean, there was trees, trunks that big that was leaning over and pulled out of the ground. That's scary.
Definitely a possibility. So,
San Angelo, which is only 3 hours from here, is well known for tornadoes.
Yep.
Extremely well known. And
San Angelo.
Like, I only ever thought that tornadoes were like up in Lubbock. area.
Tornado Alley kind of
Yeah,
area.
that area, but no.
Yeah.
The more they mess with the weather, it's all balance.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing about tornadoes is the unpredictability, is that you can't tell where they're going to move. There's professional storm chasers, which, I mean, that's wild to begin with, just imagining, oh, there's a giant tornado, I'm going to follow it.
That's why I was watching, I forget, it was online, I can't remember what I was watching, but it was Storm Chaser kind of deal.
Mhm.
And they were chasing a tornado that had 3 tornadoes in one.
Mm-hmm.
And
they
kind of
merge,
stuff.
yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Oh my God.
And it
but
was
you can't-
devastating. That's the one that hit the the wind turbine. Those big wind turbines that cost $1 million to a piece.
Yeah.
Hit it and just bent it like it was nothing.
Oh, yeah. They're violent. They're very violent. And that's why storm shelters are a great thing. Now, we don't see them that often around here. I don't know if anybody has a house with a basement here. It's not a very common
I
thing.
don't think it's a thing that-
Well, our ground is too rocky from what I understand.
Well, it depends. So, like, I'm in sand, which is just rough on structures anyway. But storm shelters are just more towards Tornado Alley. So it's kind of the whole get into an interior room, into a giant closet or a pantry, whatever you have. So I think it's just really paying attention to what the weatherman says. But we'll get into how to prepare for all of these in a moment. Let's see. Heat wave. I don't know if you guys know, but it's hot here. A little bit.
I haven't noticed, man.
A little bit. So
I'm kind of chilling.
apparently I moved here and I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be hot. It's a dry heat. Well, that's true. But after like 3 months of 100-degree weather, like constantly, I was like, okay, there's something to this. It's a little toasty. What's everyone's biggest issue with heat waves?
Hydration.
Power. That's where my mind went to. Hydration is huge on a personal level, yeah, because it can be hot and you can probably survive as long as you're hydrated. That makes sense.
ERCOT's constantly calling for brownouts, rolling blackouts.
Right.
Have you guys ever watched the ERCOT meter or the chart that they have?
Yeah.
Where it's the amount of projected volume that they're going to need and then what they're actually producing. And sometimes you see those lines get really close and you go, so should I turn on my AC unit now or should I keep it off and hope the grid doesn't
Put it
collapse?
on so that when it goes off, at least you got a little bit more time.
Yeah, so trying to figure out what you're gonna do. So that's where my mind really went to as far as the biggest first order effect of that is power.
And then also, if your AC is on the roof, like a lot of apartment complexes will have the AC on the roof, the likelihood of that going out each year is very high. Like my apartment complex has to deal with that almost each year, and I won't be surprised if my AC goes out once each year.
Jerry, what's up, man?
So I think, as you young bucks don't feel this yet, but as I get older, my tolerance and my heart rate and everything is affected by the heat. I get a heat exhaustion, maybe not heat exhaustion, but I tend to have symptoms a lot quicker. And so, health-wise, I'm the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
What are you, like 44?
Thank you.
There you go. No, but that brings up a really good point. Heat casualties. Our presenter HUD used to talk about heat casualties quite a bit. Is once you have had heat stroke or been a heat casualty, you're way more susceptible to having it again.
Yep.
And then somebody like me, I work in an office or work in my home.
Somebody like me doesn't.
He probably, if we were the same exact age, same health level, he would do a lot better because he works outside. So he is used to it, whereas I need to condition myself a lot more. So all things to consider.
And then also it depends on the occupation you have. But I know when I was going to my welding trade school, they would talk about mandatory breaks because you're around all of that heat, that you're generating with the arc, and then you're not outside, you're in closed space, so you're extremely hot. So the mandatory breaks.
Oh yeah.
Are you sweating or are you not?
Yeah, if you're not sweating, that's one of
That's
the.
a sign, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because when you're sweating, you have water to.
But it's
Yeah.
but
if you're not
it's better to be a
Stop.
caution alarm must be going off.
If you're
No,
not
we-
sweating, then you need to hydrate and take a break.
We are lucky being in San Antonio is that it is, although it is kind of humid, it's not nearly as bad as, Florida or Houston.
Yeah.
So when we do sweat, it does actually evaporate. So sweating is a great indicator. So
Yeah.
that's perfect. Let's see. So, another thing that we don't really consider is the crops.
Yeah.
And that might not be something we need to worry about in the immediate, but what happens when the, spring crop gets destroyed? And not just in our gardens, but, we plant corn down here. What happens when all of that's gone, or the hay doesn't? Yeah. So, you just watch the prices go up because there's a
Right.
shortage.
Well, that's tied to the heat because we tend to have droughts here, especially with so many people moving in. The aquifer can't handle it. So
Right.
we're under rationing all year. So if you are under rationing, you can't water.
Did you skip ahead and already look at this?
Yeah.
No, those are great points.
Great.
Those are great points. Yeah. Drought is definitely an issue. So when it's hot and you really need water and you can't get it, well, then it's just a really bad combination. And that's one of those things. It's not like you look at the weather and they say, "Oh my God, there's a hurricane coming." It's more like, "Hey, in case you guys didn't notice, there's a drought. Kind of dry. It's kind of hot." So it's one of those things that we're kind of conditioned to think it's normal. So something to keep your eye on. Drought and wildfires.
Wildfires.
So let's see. What did I say on this slide? Water shortage, rationing. See, Jeffrey's on top of it. Loss of plants, crops, livestock.
But lots of plants is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, not
For a
even.
landscaper.
That's true. So in Jerry's case, he loves these droughts, and I'm sure the irrigation companies kind of like it too. Oh, well, we got to put a new shade tree in.
We're on a different purpose.
So yeah, those are kind of the big things. They go hand in hand. But when we see droughts and extreme heat, we see wildfires.
Yep.
So that's why we always get fire bans at some of the campsites and Bear County. I don't know about Wilson County where all the cool people live, but wildfires, those are pretty crazy because they move so fast due to the wind that we have here.
Yep.
We have a decent amount of wind that is blowing kind of half the time, it seems like. That's going to spread really quick and destroy infrastructure, houses, everything. Yeah, the crops, everything. So something to definitely.
There was a tractor out where I live that midsummer last year, so of course we've had a drought, or during the drought season. And I guess it caught the straw fire or whatever. I went by, I was going to Dollar General, and I went by it and I saw it just start. I was maybe 20 minutes come back, and that field, the one behind it and the one beside it is already gone.
Yeah.
Because of the wind.
It's insane how fast a wildfire will move.
Yesterday, burning in those burn rails. That's why I was just telling him I had a lot of brush yesterday.
Yeah.
But I'm burning the burn barrels that's in the lean-to. But that wind was whipping around and stuff, so I was watching all those embers, man. I had my hose out. I was like, I told my daughter, I said, I was trying to help her. So I told her, I said, she worked on some already college courses, which is wild. But anyway, I was trying to help her. So I was trying to read what she was needing help with. I told her, I said, go check around the corner, make sure that feels okay. And she goes, there's nothing on fire. I said, you don't realize how quick it happened.
Definitely. So earthquakes. I asked a couple people in my area. I said, well, what about earthquakes? They were like, not a big deal. We're in between two fault lines. I don't know if y'all know. There's one in Luling and then one northwest, kind of by Bernie. Yeah. Yep. So we're in between those. One's in Karn City. There's been a couple earthquakes out there. So though it won't impact the city directly because you're in between them, you're not on a fault line. Some issues I'm sure that y'all could think of. Anybody have any ideas?
There's never been anything really major in this area, right? But we've had evidence in, earthquakes.
Yeah. I would think infrastructure might take an issue or might be impacted by some kind of earthquake around the city. Right. So, if you have a 6 magnitude earthquake, that could destroy power lines and roads and things along those lines. So, keep that on your radar, but I don't think I'm going to worry about a hurricane before an earthquake here.
Yeah.
And tornadoes, definitely. So, those are cool. Blizzard. Hey, we know something about a blizzard, right?
We should.
Oh, yeah.
Dairy Queen blizzards?
Wow, those are pretty tasty.
Yeah.
Now
I want to go.
But what was it, February of 21?
2019.
2019?
Yep, 2019.
Well, 21 was the really bad one with the freezes, right?
Seems like every year they've had,
That was 2019,
since
we had
then,
the
right?
Snow,
yeah.
and I was like,
Snow's not bad, though.
Snow's not bad.
It's
The
when
ice.
power gets turned.
Yes.
It's
When
not-
ERCOT goes, hey, I'm going to raise your rates up really high.
Yes.
when we had the snow at my apartment complex, we actually had power outages a lot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just an older building.
And that's the biggest thing with blizzards and the snow, really, is that the power lines can't take it because we don't have anything winterized down here. And then the rolling the trees will fall on the power lines. It's just a bad combination. Engine issues, having an engine too cold to start if you don't have the proper tools. Generator. Well, Jerry, you don't know anything about that. Yeah.
We're preppers.
We've already tested all of our systems.
Yeah.
And infrastructure shut down. You can't drive on ice. Well, you can, depending on your vehicle and how often you've practiced. And I don't think we get a lot of practice around here.
Right.
Plus, if you have the chains to put on the vehicle in the first place and make it more safe.
But how many people honestly have chains for their vehicle here?
Nobody.
Okay, we've got one. Now, how many people?
My wife drove up to Colorado and got snowed in once and didn't like it. So
Lesson learned,
we
yeah.
Get some chains. Just
Brilliant.
I only know about it because my parents moved up to South New Mexico where it snows quite often. So.
Yeah, I lived in Pennsylvania.
It's a different driving technique. I'm from Canada.
Oh yeah,
It's,
winter tires.
I have no problem even down here having a blizzard. I'm not, it's about how you're approaching it.
Your experience.
Yeah.
If you have winter tires, and then if you have chains, because that is a thing that we don't have to deal with, is having two sets of tires.
It's maintaining a presence of mind. We got stationed here from Alaska.
Yeah.
The first winter here, I was laughing at everybody. I've been here long enough. It's like, okay, I'm staying home.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because it's not just you; it's everyone else that believes that feels confident in their abilities and says, "I can do this," but they're running on bald summer tires and.
They say San Antonio, the last few times it got cold and icy, they are ahead of the game when it comes to dumping out the anti-ice chemicals. The day before, they are not getting cocked anymore like they used to.
Lesson learned. Now,
Yeah.
we'll probably have
It
to...
took them how many years to finally
I was
learn?
going to say that
Well-
one year they had that 3 ice storm. I mean, you looked at the news and it looked like post-apocalyptic, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing moving. I was like, that's the first time I've ever seen it.
And so we'll probably forget that lesson in about 20 years, and we'll have to relearn it. But that's just kind of the nature of things.
Is it okay if I take pictures, guys, of the presentation and you guys in it or whatever?
Yeah, that's
Well, so now
Problem with it.
now we get into the fun part, the part that's not obvious for most people. How to prepare.
Watch this already. It's okay.
And this is where I need to cheat on this. Okay, so identify risk. Well, we've kind of already done that already by looking at these things and saying, well, a blizzard in June, not really going to worry about that. I'm going to worry more about hurricanes and tornadoes and things along those lines. Doing an area study. So how many people live in a floodplain?
I live in Leon Valley area.
Okay.
Closer to the park. Well, I'm not a floodplain, but it's prone to flooding. Like they literally have to block it off when there's too much rain.
That's the experience. Yeah.
We'll edit that part
I
out.
live kind of right next to them, and yeah, they've been working really hard on some of their drainage issues, but we won't know until they get that next 100-year flood and see what happens.
Or when a dam breaks and you go, well, that creek that I live next to is now a river.
But we did have a dam break.
Yeah, exactly. So area studies are important. And then finding the routes. Oh, nice. So evacuation routes. Now for Houston, I'm sure that they do what they do out east in the East Coast, that they reverse the highway. So both lanes are all outbound to get everybody out, which is great until somebody decides to drive like an idiot and crashes into someone else and locks those up. So having just different evacuation routes from wherever you're at to your bug out location, which everyone has a bug out location. I'm sure that they've already predetermined, right? Maybe. You don't have to shake it.
I'm going to Mikey's house.
There you go.
That's what I'll do.
So yeah, and then creating a plan. So it could be family group, your MAG plan of having hey, he lives out here, I live here. We're going to meet here so that we can get to the bug out location. Look, we've already avoided all of the major interstates. We've got spider points, so we have multiple ways to get to our bug out location. So having that plan and then testing it out. I think that's great. It's great to have a plan, but if you've never tried it,
or even stress testing it. So not just testing it, but stress testing it. So putting yourself on a clock.
Yeah, timing it, seeing, hey, can I shave 5 minutes off of this if I've done it once, and then the next time, hey, look, what happens if I have a flat tire? Pressure testing it, finding out what in your gear sucks, and then going, well, how can I fix that? So, perfect point. Let's see. Building kits. So everyone has a bug out bag. I'm sure that they haven't pulled out of their closet in a couple years since COVID, right?
Well, I found that if I put it in my closet, it's very difficult to access, and if you need to bug out extremely quickly, then the ease of access hinders you.
Yeah, well,
so it's
a good point.
But you're especially if, like, it depends on if you have people over and you want people to see your bug out bag, and like if you're inviting people in and they see your bug out bag, you're worried about them doing something to it, then you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's that balance between ease of access. It's that balance between ease of access and concealability.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of my closet, I don't know how your apartment or house is set up.
Apartment complex, so like people.
Yeah,
like,
my bug out bag in my closet, it's like 6 feet away, so I can just.
Mine is currently in the very front, so like.
There you go.
Even if I was sleeping, I can go out from like my bedroom to my living room and.
There you go. So car kits, another point, having something in your car because you might not have your bug out bag that's in the front of your apartment when flash flood shows up. So having some kind of bag that you can just pull from and go, hey, at least I know I have a little bit of water, a little bit of food, some first aid supplies because everyone's carrying tourniquets, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just remember though, you keep your food in the car.
Yep.
At this time of year, you need to swap it out because the heat.
Yeah.
The heat, definitely.
Heat liquefies jerky.
Even the jerky?
The heat will almost liquefy it because it's too hot. Typically to leave in the car, so it doesn't last that long. It doesn't last more
That's
than
weird.
2 or 3 weeks.
Say
Well,
I've
there's
got
sugar.
I've got in my old truck. I have a jerky from a year ago, so I'll have to check that out. Because last time I saw it, it was
But
good.
this is more the mass-produced one. So
Yeah, it's Jack
the
Link's.
sticks.
Right.
The
It's
sticks.
Jack Link's
Right.
stuff. So
If you made your own,
Squares.
Right.
Yeah, those are.
it should be all right.
Well, it depends on how it's made. Is it dried or is it made with
Right.
sugar?
Yeah.
Zero
Is it
miles
dehydrated?
moisture in it, if
Yeah.
it's moisture in it, that's what. That's
Oh, yeah,
what-
he's talking
Yeah.
about-
here's a question.
That's
So
rancid.
in the age of GPS, how many people have paper maps?
How many
Hey,
was-
have paper maps. So we have GPSs, we have cell phones and all that. Having the paper maps available, because what if the power is out? Do you want to be using the battery power you have on your phone to scroll through
Yeah.
through
I don't
maps?
have as many, but I have, to get me to my bug out location.
Perfect. And compasses, and hey, we've all done map reading, so we know land nav at least a little bit. So
Yep.
perfect. Practical, or practice, excuse me. So practicing all of these things, the evacuation with your family. Kind of a nerd sometimes. I'll be like, hey, we need to go do a practice. And my wife's like, again, come on. I'm watching Bridgerton. I'm like, yeah, we're going. Or I'm like, okay, after this episode, I'm going to be honest. Let her get that episode in, and then we're going. And, we're timing it. We're seeing what's the most miserable part of that, and what can we do to make it a little easier. For example, I didn't fill up my gas tank all the way on my truck. So I had like a quarter tank, which I know that's like a cardinal sin that I broke.
That's not-
It happens though.
Yeah. But, I've identified it. And so now every time I see it, I go, I remember that time that this could have gotten my family killed. Kind of morbid, but that's the way I thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, staying informed. Okay. So how do y'all keep track of weather? Is it just you go outside and you're like, it looks kind of cloudy?
Radars.
Yeah, I mean, I can generally kind of tell. I don't mean to sound too, bashful, but I mean, I could look at it and be like, all right, the winds are extremely high, the clouds look a little bit too ominous. Like, there's just, that feeling you get.
You guys use the weather app?
Yes.
I have it generally on my phone, but I don't pay attention.
It's like live radar.
Yeah, live radar.
Weather underground.
Y'all have these, right?
I don't.
Yes. Weather underground.
Not this specific one, but y'all have radios.
Yes.
Okay, so besides the comms guys that I'm sure have this burned into the back of their head, what's the NOAA radio frequency?
Yeah, what is it?
162.550 in this area.
And it's on that sheet that depends where you're
Thank
at.
you.
So I keep one of mine always on the weather band.
No hazardous weather is expected at this time.
Hey, I did not time that. That was just lucky.
Perfect.
Sunday through Friday.
But you can keep this on, and in
Elevated heat index
3
values
minutes,
from 105 to 110 are
you can tell it's
possible
going to be
near
hot. Oh, look, no other weather risks. Cool. Moving on with my life.
There's also frequencies that are known in your area that just monitor, they're there for weather. So if there is any weather coming in, you can monitor that.
Oh, look at this guy.
And they're also all alerts will go over that. So any alert for the area will go out over the national.
Yeah, they'll go over the national.
So this is a cool one.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
This is looks like a solar
Yeah.
NOAA weather band radio. What is this? Probably like $25, $30.
No, I mean, that's a nice segue. I got, what I usually do is I go to places like, what's that, pawn shops or.
Estate sales.
Yeah. And what I do, and I thought about what you were talking about, and we were talking about this week, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna take a couple of things that I think are gonna be important. I'm talking about this
Yeah.
power. So this right here, it's taken apart because I took it apart to replace the battery. And I already ordered it and I doubled it. So this, a lot of people think is expensive to do all this stuff. I paid $4 for this thing.
Nice.
This was this week, and it's got the same thing as that. It's got sirens. What I like is it's got the yeah. So you can
Oh yeah, the dynamo charger.
USB in it?
It does have a USB.
Yeah.
So
Get that with the flashlight, USB.
well,
Yeah, and this has a
Pretty.
looks like this has a crank. This is from Midland.
That's another way of keeping in
So
contact.
I actually, sort of a side note, I actually have happen to have my battery that's solar powered.
There you go.
And you know, can be powered through the wall, so I can
Perfect.
be prepared at any point. Just pull that out of the wall, put it in my bag.
Did you read this presentation already? Did I give this one? Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'm glad that I've seen a lot more people, especially in the past couple of years, have those little USB battery packs.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they size up even to the big boys. You know, I've got, I think, a 20,000 in my backpack, which is just unnecessary. I could probably get away with like a 6,000 milliamp, but yeah.
The bigger go home.
Exactly. Bigger, better. All right. So,
You'd have a spare one for mobile use and one to put in your car. And then
That's
obviously you put the big one in your car and the small one in your bag or whatever.
yeah, you don't want to be the guy that's lugging one of these around in your backpack.
Right.
It's just National Weather Service offers alerts that you can sign up for on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's something bad coming your way, it knows your location by, I think, zip code, and it'll ping you and say, "Hey, there's a tornado warning," in case you didn't know by the dark clouds and the swirling air all around you. But yeah, so that's an option. Let's see. Don't hesitate to evacuate. It's really kind of a corny term, but I'm kind of a fan of it. Just, hey, bad weather's coming. Either hunker down or get out of the town. If there's a hurricane coming and it's definitely you're in the middle of the cone of uncertainty, maybe it'd be a good idea to leave before everyone else leaves. Jerry.
Hurricane down in the valley, Donna, 2007, whatever it was. I'm pretty tough, and we're gonna ride this out. But I didn't consider my wife and my 7-month-old daughter, right? And it was hell on them. And I was tough, right? I was like, don't worry about it. But as the ceiling started to fall onto the furniture because it was just soaking wet, and the fear and everything is like, did I make the right decision?
That's a perfect consideration. Is going, hey, yeah, I'm this tough survivalist preparedness person. I'll be okay, but what if you have a child? Do you want to put them through that? Maybe it'd just be easier to drive off and then come back and say, okay, insurance will cover this. No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. Thank you for sharing that. That's
a good
Yeah, it's
point.
just here I am. No, we got this. But I have to consider. You have to consider, the ability and everybody else.
Yeah.
that's a good point.
As a man of your family, women are your family members looking to you as the leader.
Yeah.
And if things like that and you don't consider, then next time they're gonna have like mistrust on you, right? And think like, oh, he does not even have my best interest at heart. And you don't want that, right? Because in emergency times, you want everybody to be on board and do what you say.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to be questioned, right? You don't
Right.
want to be doubted.
Right.
Smart. So next is just the emergency kit, and these are just kind of some recommendations. This is all high level. Of course, everyone has their own setups. Radio, let's see, food and water, lighting, batteries. See, I thought you looked ahead. I don't know. Let's see, medicines, first aid kit. So not only first aid kit, but any prescription medications that you might need. Let's see, money, cash is always good. The correct clothing. So if everyone keeps a change of clothing in their car, maybe you don't want the parka right now or the,
Right.
the ski pants.
Right.
That would be great if
I
it's.
should take it out of my bed.
That's okay.
And then you can always use the rule of dressing down. So you can have your bug out bag with your regular khakis, which can be good enough for like this kind of hot weather, but then slightly cool weather, and then you just have your jacket.
Yeah.
And then your t-shirt, and then all that pre-planned. So then you just dress down for dress back up.
So much easier to do in Texas.
It is.
It is
Sorry
very
for
easy
the
in Texas.
fumble.
I will
It
say- I will
is.
say it's very different in North, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
On medication, there is one thing that's useful. There's a company called Jace Medical.
Yes.
So they now allow you to get your normal day-to-day prescriptions. Like I take Losartan, which is a blood pressure pill. I got a year's supply from them for $65.
Nice.
So they'll send you the 365 pills, and you can
Nice.
renew every year. That way you can have it as a backup to get extra, because sometimes it's hard to get your
Mhm.
doctor to agree to give you more than 30
What's the
days.
name of that?
Jace, J-A-S-E.
Yeah, Jace Medical.
It's the
And
same
you
place
can
for
get
you get
antibiotics.
antibiotics kits.
Yeah, ivermectin.
I got the
Mhm.
kits, the antibiotics.
They're really
So they
good.
now offer ivermectin, they offer
Yeah,
solid,
yeah.
they offer other drugs that you can get. I got an inhaler with mine, so I had one for sometimes asthma.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Fuel, that was my cardinal sin, like I mentioned before. Having some extra fuel might be a pretty good idea. Generator, depending on if your kit's at home, having a solar backup or having just a regular pull gas generator, probably a good idea. Heaters, sandbags, something we don't really consider. With all the flash flooding, if you have a low area,
Just recently ordered some sandbags just in case.
being able, even 20 sandbags can make the difference between your house flooding or not.
Yep.
Being able to divert water away because
Yep.
it's going to follow path
They don't
of least
have to be
resistance.
built with sand, as long as you have sand there too.
Yeah.
You can
Oh, yeah.
back them later, right? Or at least having them there.
Have it.
That's probably the easiest thing to do. What I've seen is a lot of people, if they're trying to flow water one way, they'll actually pull sand from that area so that it's deeper and it follows the least resistance, and then fill it up and fill the bags up.
Yeah, but I wasn't thinking about water.
It's one of those
I was
things.
Thinking of just in case, since I'm bugging in, I need my community to help out, and we might have some positions at the top of our street and the bottom of our street that people be on watch to keep mobs from coming through.
Yeah, well, water is one of those tricky things that you don't think about until you've had to wade through it, and then you go, "Oh my God, this is
Very powerful.
it."
Luckily, I'm on the hill.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
Luckily, I'm on a second story, but I still have to consider it because the roof is flat. So if too much water comes in, I would start having spots. That's actually going to be worse than if I was on the bottom. But on the bottom, you're getting water from the.
Yeah, you could get storm surge and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, that's one of those things. Sandbags. I wanted to put that on here because it's one of the things that I didn't think of for years. Why would I need those? And then I saw flooding, and I go, never mind. I understand now. So, let's see. Copies of important documents, probably laminated, might not be a bad idea because those documents are great until they get wet and they seep and then they're useless. So, something to consider.
Don't do that to your originals, though.
Yeah.
Just copy.
Copy.
That is the key
Yes.
word.
Copies and then laminate those
Yes.
copies. Maps, chargers, PPE. So dust can be really bad, so can fire. So maybe having some of those.
Did you say PPE?
Yes.
Personal protective equipment.
Yes. So looking at those respirator masks and even a gas mask might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Not an extensive or not an exhaustive list. What did y'all want to add to that as far as what to store?
As far as PPE, I would put gloves because a lot
Gloves.
of times when you gotta bug out and you gotta make fire, you don't want to ruin your hands and then be like, all right, now that I got the fire started, I gotta doctor my hands up because I don't want it to get infected, and then that's just another thing you have to worry about. So if you put gloves on while just doing basic labor to
Absolutely.
stay warm, make your shelter and stuff like that, you don't have to.
Pair of leather gloves or mechanic gloves.
Just a few things. The chlorine granules you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot or any pool supply come in a big box. Just have a little bit on hand because it only takes one little granule for a lot of water to purify, and that's something that's lightweight and you have in your bug out bag. Oh, you don't want that big. You want the little granule, little salt granules size. Yeah. Okay. And an axe. Okay. You'll want to have, even if it's just a little, but it will. I always keep that in my car. And then this might seem excessive, but a battery powered chainsaw. They have little compact ones that fold up. I also keep in my car because when you are trying to get out, if you have to take a back road, and in disasters, what always happens, trees fall, right? And yeah, so that's out of experience, that became a necessity. So
because you don't even want to worry about a regular handsaw, especially when you're trying to get out that quick.
yes,
When you're trying to just build basic shelter and you don't have to worry about
That too.
timing.
Yeah.
that window, then
Mhm.
yeah, you can have a hold of saw, regular saw.
Mhm.
The chainsaw deal,
Mhm.
because when you said that, I thought about like a full size chainsaw. I just bought one of those little hand chainsaws.
Exactly.
6 inches.
Yeah, the
That thing
chain.
it's a beast. I love that.
It is,
I
and
can't believe
people-
40, like 30, 45 things, like $40.
Yeah, the capabilities of that thing, you know, and, you know.
That's what I just did all day yesterday. I cut wood branches and all that stuff. And I also got the power provers.
Yep.
And those are awesome too. I mean, they'll cut something up to that big, so it just makes it a lot easier.
Yep.
Instead of like chopping or sawing and using your energy.
Yeah. And when we're talking about floods, a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of people because that's relative to what you think is a lot, but when they had the floods, people went into their attics to escape and they got trapped in where they died. So you want to have an axe always in your attic, right? And maybe even have something like an umbrella or shade. If you're going to go to your roof, you're going to just sit there and bake, right? And fry. So out of experience, that's what people have learned.
Yeah, I think with Katrina, they used to see people that were stuck in the attics. They were trapped because the floodwaters raised, and then they raised into the attic, and unfortunately, they passed away due to that. So, yeah, that was when you told me that. I was like, that's brilliant, but I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
Not in a million years.
Until you go through it, right? You
So-
know, so.
So tarps, or you mentioned the umbrella, and where I was going was protect you from the elements, whether it's cold, hot, whatever. But having some kind of a tarp available doesn't take up a lot of room. Always should be in your photo as well.
Yeah.
The tarp is such a beautiful thing too,
Yes.
because it's multi-purpose. It's
Yes.
shelter, it's a poncho, it's it's the roof over your head. Like there's so many different things. Gathering water, exactly. Yeah.
Very
Like
cool.
I literally just have in my basic bug up, like I have the hammock to stay off the ground, and then I have the tarp if I want to be on the ground or cover the top or whatever, what have you, and then a wool blanket, because a wool blanket is full of warmth and to put out a fire in case of an emergency, or if your fire spreads too far, or what have you.
Here's what I just thought of.
Yeah.
That was good. That's smart. We're talking about PPE. What about shoes? It's kind of a form of PPE because, yeah, you want to protect your hands. That's huge. You interface with so much with these. But, yeah, if you can't walk, you're done.
Yep.
One of the most common things forgotten about is footwear, right? And it's one of the most important. You can't go anywhere without.
Yeah. And, waterproof's great. Ankle support. So some combat boots might not be a bad idea. Socks, having good socks. I think that's huge. But yeah.
Well, keeping your socks dry mainly, that's the.
But a change up, right?
Yes, always.
Always have a spare.
Yeah. There's been plenty of times where I'm glad if I'm doing some through hiking where I'm wading through the creek and I'm not doing that barefoot because those sharp rocks will end your day and you'll have to take a couple zeros.
It's a good way to practice to that and test that. And Jeffrey's done that a lot where he's taken, the preppers have hikes and, events like that. You go participate in there. You really learn a lot about your feet. He's got a lot of examples, right? Of other people that weren't prepared for it and literally shut down because they couldn't go any further.
We did a hike last November at Las Maples.
Oh, very cool.
The person I was hiking with, her shoes fell apart 4 times.
Oh.
So the first was the normal bottom part came off of one shoe, then it came off the other shoe, then the inside bottom of the shoe came off, and the inside bottom of the other shoe came off. So she had to finish up the hike back to the car. That was a 5-mile hike on barefoot.
Yep.
On gravel.
Las Maples is not very conducive to walking barefoot.
But test yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Challenge yourself to participate in something just to test your equipment.
And this might be a bit excessive, but this is how far I've gone, and something I'm actually only recently getting back into. Training myself is like pushing my feet to go further than a normal person, because we weren't born with shoes, so technically we could go without shoes to a certain extent. You can be on asphalt, but we as humans aren't used to it because we wear shoes all the time. And so what I would do is I would go from like walking to running on asphalt, and then I would go to something like a park, maybe like when everybody's kind of gone. I won't get the weird looks. I'll go barefoot and walk on the actual like rock and gravel.
Yeah.
But I'll also train myself to be like being able to look and point out and notice any dangers to my actual feet,
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to respond accordingly. So like the biggest ones is like thorns. Thorns will puncture your feet before anything else, or like needles and stuff like that. And needles aren't as common, but thorns are. And so just things like that, and being able to run on the sidewalk and then be like, nope, going this way.
That's smart.
Just think, we're not conditioned that. You're right. There was no shoes when everything started, but we're not conditioned that way. So unless you're conditioning,
you gotta
all the
condition
time,
a lot. Yeah, you gotta
just
condition.
make sure you got shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna train to go get another pair of shoes.
Right.
Oh yeah, or like going back to the bug out thing. Like if you don't have time to get your shoes and you gotta leave like right fucking now, like you gotta be able to like at least run to your car where you would have an actual pair of shoes without fucking up your feet.
I think all my shoes would get me across San Antonio and back if I needed to.
But the point of being able to pick it up in time, like I'm
I would
talking
say
worst
so.
case scenario.
It's still good training.
It's still good training. It's still good discipline and character development.
No,
It's
it's-
just
No, yeah.
what I like to do.
It's like your hands. You need your hands toughened up. So
Yeah,
First time you chop something or whatever, you're not blistered.
because you may not always have.
Gotta get going on
So, because my feet, I'm not gonna lie, my feet are like baby's feet, man.
But it's great to have.
Yeah.
So
Can-
that would be a good
Can I
training
just
for 'em.
Of
add-
course.
just to piggyback on the heat, my only part of really this presentation, I wanted to tell you about the old ways that they did a little bit of food preservation in the summer times, where they would dig a hole and they would put wet sand, and then they would pack their food in there and then cover it with sand and wet it, and that's one way. And you can also put, wet cloth to cool off, and they would have wet sheets hanging up at the windows and the doors. It doesn't seem like a lot, but those little bit of cool breeze degrees floating past those sheets made a world of a difference. And that's